At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI slop. In the end, what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. My name's General G. Let's begin. Being thrown into a cell block full of alien criminals came with a host of miseries, but the fedora topped the list. Arlo Cassian, currently playing the role of Jimmy the Gopher, watched a tentacled creature adjust a tiny pinstripe hat that defied several laws of physics by remaining perched on what he generously called a head. The Cephalaxian struck a pose that someone somewhere must have told him looked intimidating. "Well, well, well," the alien said, his universal translator rendering the words faithfully. The cadence, however, that of a community theater actor who'd watched exactly one gangster movie, was all him. "Look what the screws dragged in. Fresh meat, boys." The boys consisted of chittering insectoid who vibrated with nervous energy, a gelatinous mass roughly the size and shape of a beanbag chair, and what appeared to be a finch that had gotten ambitious about evolution and decided to try being 5 feet tall. They arranged themselves behind their leader in a familiar tableau of attempted menace. "You know what we do with fresh meat around here," the Cephalaxian continued, two of his tentacles sliding together in what looked more like an attempt to start a very wet fire than a threat. Arlo let his shoulders slump, perfecting the posture of a man who'd given up before he'd even started. The psych profile said they'd respond to weakness. 20 years in corrections taught him that the best way to understand a system was to let it think it understood you first. "Please," he said, his voice cracking just a little, "I don't want any trouble." The leader's chromatophores flickered in what the prison's corrupted entertainment files had told him was the color of danger. Arlo knew from his briefing materials it was closer to mild digestive discomfort. "You hear that, boys? He don't want no trouble." The Cephalaxian slithered closer, bringing with him the distinct aroma of old seafood trying to hide behind too much cologne. "Well, Jimmy the Gopher, yeah, we heard what you're in for. Very pathetic, by the way. Trouble's what you got. The name's Vinny. Vinny DeWacker Galorsk." The insectoid leaned forward. "DeWacker," he chittered. "DeWacker, that's what they call him." "That's what I just said, Johnny," Vinny snapped. "Just making sure he heard," Johnny said. "Heard the name." Arlo bit the inside of his cheek to keep from smiling. 3 hours ago, he'd been in his office reviewing the facility's catastrophic rehabilitation figures. B-Block's recidivism rate was 94%. The Galactic Commonalities bureaucrats were making noises about restructuring, which was their way of saying they'd shut the place down and ship everyone to a supermax, where rehabilitation meant learning not to make eye contact with the guards. The guard who processed him, Officer Tarsus, the only one who knew his real identity, had given him a look that could have frozen hydrogen. She thought this plan was insane. She was probably right. But sometimes the distance between insane and inspired was just a matter of perspective. "You're going to be working for us now," Vinny continued, gesturing expansively with 4 of his 8 arms. "Consider it protection. Yeah, protection from all the bad elements in here." The gelatinous being quivered in what came across more like anxiety-induced wobbling than an attempt at looking tough. "That's right," the blob managed, his voice like someone talking through pudding. "Big Louie's gonna protect you real good." The finch-like creature puffed up its chest, sending a few downy feathers floating through the scrubbed air.
"And if you're good, maybe Peckins here will share some of his special pasta. Real human stuff, authentic as it gets."
Arlo's stomach, which had been through worse, still managed a small protest at the memory of the pasta from his briefing materials. The corrupted entertainment archive had left the inmates with a lot of strange ideas about human culture, but none stranger than the belief that everything improved with what they called marinara, a mix of protein-rich gel and what the kitchen generously called tomato flavoring. "Whatever you say," Arlo mumbled, perfecting the act. "Just please don't hurt me." Vinny's tentacles writhed in satisfaction. "See, boys? He gets it. He understands the He paused, clearly searching for a word from one of those old movies.
The hierarchy. That's it. The hierarchy of needs.
That wasn't what hierarchy of needs meant, but Arlo kept his mouth shut. The lavatory on B Block hadn't been updated since the facility's days as a maximum security installation. The walls were 3-inch carbide steel, which meant nothing could hear through them, including the various species of aliens whose hearing ranged from subsonic to ultrasonic. It was the perfect place for a private conversation. Arlo pulled out a device no bigger than a breath mint and pressed it against his jaw. "This is idiotic." Tarsus's voice materialized in his inner ear, skipping the pleasantries entirely. "Your vitals are elevated. Are you compromised?" "I'm fine," Arlo sub-vocalized, the bone conduction mic picking up his words. "Just had my first meeting with the welcoming committee." "The Cephalaxian and his collection of fools?" "That's them. They've really committed to the bit." He could practically hear Tarsus's disapproval through the comm. The Therian had a gift for conveying disappointment through quiet. Her species communicated partially through subharmonic vibrations, and right now, even through the compressed audio, he could feel the low thrum of her irritation. "Warden Cassian," she began, using his title like a weapon, "you're risking your career and possibly your life to play dress-up with a bunch of aliens who think they're in a movie that's been dead for 300 years. First, it's just Arlo while I'm under. Second, it's not just dress-up. They're building an identity from the only cultural touchstones they have. That corrupted media server offers them a ready-made narrative of power and respect. It's more appealing than anything else we've provided. It's a broken window showing them garbage. One person's garbage is another's foundation myth." Arlo checked the door, listening for footsteps. "Look, we both know the numbers. These aren't hardened criminals. Half of them are in here for theft of flavor packets. The other half for black market trading of the same flavor packets. The actual violent offenders couldn't fit in a supply closet. And yet, you want to play games with them. I want to give them something better to be. Vinny's crew is the social center of this block. Every new inmate either joins them or defines themselves in opposition to them. If I can shift their trajectory, the whole block shifts. Or you could just implement new programs from your office like a normal warden. Because that's worked so well for the last 5 wardens?" The quiet stretched long enough that Arlo wondered if the connection had dropped. Then Tarsus spoke, her tone shifting from disapproval to resignation. "You have until the end of the week," she said. "The commonality is breathing down my neck about the recidivism numbers. If you don't have something tangible by then, they'll promote me for innovative thinking. They'll designate you for psychological evaluation and permanent reassignment to waste processing. Your confidence in me is inspiring. My confidence in your past results is the only reason I haven't reported this insanity." The subharmonic thrum softened slightly. "Just try to avoid any actual injuries. The resulting documentation would be immense." Arlo smiled despite himself. Tarsus expressing concern through bureaucratic worry was the closest she came to admitting she cared. "Roger that. Jimmy the Gopher, signing off." "Idiot," Tarsus muttered, but there was something almost fond in it. The next 3 days established a rhythm. Wake up to the artificial dawn that someone had programmed to include the sound of roosters despite no one in B Block knowing what a rooster was. Shuffle to the mess hall, where Peckins would ladle out his latest interpretation of human cuisine. Endure Vinny's crew's increasingly creative attempts at criminal behavior. "We're gonna pull a heist," Vinny announced on day 2, spreading his tentacles wide. "The big score, see? We're gonna boost the chaplain's meditation stones." Johnny vibrated with excitement. "Meditation stones, the meditation stones." "Why?" Arlo asked, genuinely curious. Vinny's chromatophores shifted to what he probably thought was mysterious, but looked more like confusion. Because that's what you do. You pull heists." The heist consisted of Vinny creating a distraction by loudly arguing with a guard about the philosophical implications of rehabilitation, while Big Louie oozed through a wide service conduit in the ceiling. The budget cuts had left the block with minimal staff and easily foiled automated surveillance, so no one even noticed. Louis came back with 3 stones and what appeared to be the chaplain's lunch. "Did we not specify just the stones?" Vinny asked. I got nervous," Big Louie admitted, his form rippling with embarrassment. "The sandwich looked at me."
Sandwiches don't have eyes, Louis.
"Oh, this one did. Little olive eyes. They were judging me." The chaplain, a patient Zolovan whose species had evolved beyond the need for material possessions about 3 evolutionary steps ago, didn't even report the theft. Arlo found him that evening in the meditation room, forearms folded in serene acceptance.
"They returned the stones,"
the chaplain said without opening any of his 6 eyes,
"with a note apologizing for the inconvenience to my organization."
"How did that make you feel?"
Like perhaps they aren't entirely lost. Also, mildly concerned about the state of education in this facility.
The 3rd day brought what Vinny called the sit-down, which involved the entire crew gathering around a table in the common area to discuss family business. The family business primarily consisted of arguing about who controlled the hot sauce packets. "It's about respect," Vinny insisted, waving 4 arms for emphasis. "You can't just go around disrespecting a man's condiments."
"But I like the green ones,"
Peckins chirped, his feathers rustling with distress.
"They remind me of home."
"But your people don't even have taste buds," Big Louie pointed out.
"That's racist,"
Peckins shot back.
"We have taste sensors. They're just located in our feet." "That explains so much about your cooking,"
Johnny muttered, then catching himself.
"Your cooking, it explains it."
Arlo watched it all, taking mental notes. They weren't criminals. They were theater kids who'd only ever been given 1 script. The challenge wasn't rehabilitating them, it was giving them a better show to perform. That's when he noticed Vinny staring at the wall, specifically at a spot where the paint had chipped away to reveal the original military-grade hull plating underneath.
"You see that?"
Vinny said, his voice dropping to what he probably thought was conspiratorial, but was actually just quiet enough that everyone leaned in.
"This place weren't always a minimum security joke. This was the real deal once. Maximum security. The big house." "So?"
Peckins asked.
"So they never changed the bones, just the curtains, eh? You get me? All that hardware, all them systems, they're still there. Just mothballed, deactivated. And you know what that means?"
The crew exchanged glances. Big Louie formed what might have been a questioning pseudopod.
"It means that this whole place is one big opportunity. We could waltz out of here like it was nothing, like we was taking a Sunday stroll."
"Oh, a breakout?" Big Louie whispered, his mask compressing with anxiety.
"Not just a breakout,"
Vinny corrected.
"The breakout. The kind they make movies about."
Arlo kept his expression carefully neutral, but inside his mind worked through the possibilities. This was it. This was the teachable moment he'd been waiting for. Let them plan their grand escape, let them commit to it, and then show them the consequences in a controlled environment. It was risky, but it was exactly the kind of visceral lesson that might actually stick. "You really think we could do it?" he asked, putting just enough sincerity in his voice to sound genuinely interested. Vinny's tentacles curled in definite satisfaction.
"Kid, with the right plan, the right crew, and the right patsy, no offense, we could dance out of here like Fred and Ginger." "Who?" Johnny asked. "I don't know, but the movie said they could dance real good."
That evening, Arlo made another trip to the lavatory. "Absolutely not," Tarsus said before he could even explain the plan. "Facilitating an escape attempt, even a controlled one, is grounds for immediate termination." "It's not facilitating if it's designed to fail." "That's literally entrapment. It's education. Think about it. They're going to try something eventually. The Cephalaxian's been building to this for months according to the psychological profiles. Better it happens on our terms than theirs. Our terms? There is no our here, Warden. There's you, playing prisoner, and me trying to keep this facility from imploding while you're having your midlife crisis. I'm 43. If this is my midlife crisis, I'm planning to live to 86, which seems optimistic given my current circumstances. Your attempt at humor doesn't change the fact that this is insane. Arlo paused, considering his words carefully. Tarsus, in the 5 years we've worked together, have I ever asked you to trust me without a good reason? You've asked me to trust you plenty of times. The good reason part is debatable. But you've trusted me anyway. Another long silence. Then a sound he'd rarely heard, the Therian equivalent of a sigh, a low tone that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. What do you need? Old facility schematics, something that looks official but is ultimately useless. Maybe the protein-rich gel delivery system. Label it something generic like maintenance tunnels or service corridors. You want me to help you con a group of inmates with a fake map? My career is on the line too. I want you to help me teach them that crime doesn't pay, using methods that will actually stick. This is the only play we have left to save this facility from being shut down. If we fail, we're all reassigned. You're mixing up your metaphors. I'm innovating. You're an idiot. We've established that. Can you get the schematics? Another low sigh. I'll have them ready by tomorrow, but when this unravels, and it will unravel, I'm on record as having protested this entire operation. Noted and appreciated. Also, your suit's biometrics show you haven't been eating enough. The warden skipping meals looks suspicious. Peckin's made something he calls Alfredo. I think it might be sentient. Eat it anyway. The last thing we need is you passing out and blowing your cover because you're too precious for alien prison food. The connection cut off before Arlo could respond. He stared at his reflection in the polished steel mirror, noting the stubble he'd cultivated to look appropriately disheveled. 3 days in, and he looked the part. The question was whether he could keep playing it long enough to make a difference. The next morning started like any other. Roosters that didn't exist, breakfast that shouldn't exist, and Vinny holding court like a king whose kingdom was a broken-down rec room that smelled like industrial cleaner and broken dreams. Then, Dreg arrived. The first sign was the quiet. B Block was never truly silent. Between the various species' breathing patterns, the hum of the ventilation system working overtime to accommodate 14 different atmospheric preferences, and Johnny's constant nervous chittering, there was always noise. But when the main door opened and the guards escorted in the new prisoner, everything stopped. The Draken stood 7 feet tall and moved like violence given form. His scales were the color of dried blood, except where a massive scar split one side of his face, leaving the tissue beneath a pale pink that somehow looked worse than the rest. When he breathed, it sounded like a furnace warming up. "Fresh meat," Vinny started to say, then the words died in his throat as Dreg's head turned toward him with the slow deliberation of a targeting system. "You," Dreg said, his voice like gravel being ground to dust, "are wearing a hat." It wasn't a question. It wasn't even an observation. He was cataloging things he might destroy later. It's a fedora," Vinny managed. "You know, like in the—" "I don't care." Dreg walked past them like they were furniture, found an empty table and sat. The metal groaned under his weight. He didn't look around, didn't size up the room, didn't do any of the things new inmates usually do. He just sat there, perfectly still, like a landmine, waiting for someone to step wrong. One of the guards, a nervous-looking Setian whose spots were rapidly changing color, approached Tarsus with a datapad. Even from across the room, Arlo could see her rigid posture shift to something beyond disapproval, something closer to actual alarm. She looked directly at him, and the message was clear. We need to talk now. I gotta use the facilities, Arlo mumbled to no one in particular. Hold it, Vinny said, but his hearts weren't in it. He still stared at Dreg like a mouse who just realized the cat wasn't playing. He's supposed to be in Supermax Station 7, Tarsus said without preamble. Someone typed B-773 instead of S-773. A single letter, and now we have a Category 5 violent offender in our rehabilitation facility. Category 5? Arlo felt his plans shifting, reforming. What did he do? Killed 3 guards during his last escape attempt. Bare claws. The report is detailed. Can we transfer him? I've already put in the request. There's a sector-wide transport lockdown. A solar flare knocked out the primary nav beacons. Nothing moves for at least a week, maybe 2. Of course. We should abort your operation. Arlo shook his head. No, if anything, this makes it more important. Vinny's crew needs to see the difference between playing criminal and being one. Dreg might be exactly the dose of reality they need. Dreg might kill them. Well, not if we're careful. Look, he doesn't care about them. They're beneath his notice. As long as they stay out of his way, and if he decides to make his own escape attempt. Arlo was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then we use their plan to stop his. You want to use a fake breakout to prevent a real one? When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. That's because it is ridiculous. Just trust me. One more time. We can use this. We just need to be smart about it. Tarsus's harmonic vibration could have shattered glass. Fine, but I'm doubling the guard rotation, and if that thing so much as looks at someone wrong, you'll handle it. I know, you always do. Flattery doesn't work on my species. That wasn't flattery, that was acknowledgement of competence. That's worse. Get back out there before someone notices you're gone. When Arlo returned to the common area, he found Vinny's crew huddled in their usual corner. But the dynamic had changed. They looked smaller somehow, like kids who just realized the playground had rules and the rules had teeth. We need those blueprints, Vinny whispered, his chromatophores stuck on a sickly mottled gray. Soon, real soon. Why? Arlo asked, though he already knew. Because that thing ain't here by accident, Vinny said. That's Dreg Vaughn, the Scar. You know what he did to the last crew that got in his way? No, neither does anyone else, because there wasn't enough left to identify. Big Louie quivered. Or maybe we should forget the whole breakout thing. No! Vinny's voice cracked slightly. We ain't backing down. We're professionals. We got a code. We got standards. And we ain't gonna let some psycho lizard make us look like chumps. It was bravado, pure and simple, but there was something else there too. Pride. Twisted and misguided maybe, but real. They'd built an identity, a community, a weird little family based on movies they barely understood, and Dreg represented everything that could tear it apart. I can get the blueprints, Arlo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. You? Peckins squawked. Jimmy the Gopher? How you gonna get classified facility schematics? Arlo let himself smile just a little. You're not the only ones who've been watching those movies. I know a guy who knows a guy. A guy who knows a guy, Johnny repeated, excited. He knows a guy! He knows a guy! Vinny studied him, and for a moment, Arlo worried he'd oversold it. But then, the Cephalaxian's tentacles curled into what might have been approval. Maybe you're not as useless as you look, Gopher. Getting the schematics from Tarsus required another bathroom meeting. She handed him a datapad that looked like it had seen better decades. The screen was cracked, the casing held together with what appeared to be chewing gum, and the display flickered. Nutrient delivery system, she said. I've relabeled everything to sound like action movie nonsense. Main coolant shaft instead of protein paste line. Security checkpoint alpha instead of hairnet dispensary. There's a hairnet dispensary? Was before the budget cuts. The point is, it looks real enough to fool someone whose entire education comes from corrupted entertainment files. And if Dreg gets a hold of it? and we'll have bigger problems than your educational experiment. Arlo tucked the pad under his jumpsuit. Has he done anything yet? He's been sitting in the same spot for 6 hours. Hasn't moved, hasn't eaten, hasn't even blinked as far as we can tell. He's just waiting. For what? Not a clue. That's what worries me. That evening, Arlo found himself inducted into what Vinny called the inner circle, which consisted of sitting around a table in the corner of the common room while Peckins attempted to make espresso with a contraband heating coil and what he swore was real coffee but smelled like burnt rubber.
All right, Gopher,
Vinny said, leaning in conspiratorially.
show us what you got.
Arlo produced the datapad with appropriate ceremony, sliding it across the table like he was passing state secrets. Vinny's tentacles trembled as he picked it up.
This is it, he breathed. The real deal. Look at this. Maintenance Tunnel 7 leads right to... What's this say? Auxiliary thermal exchange,
Johnny read.
Thermal exchange. Sounds important.
It means the laundry room, Arlo said, then quickly added, but it's got access to the old service corridors, the ones they used when this was a maximum security joint.
You know a lot about this place for a new fish,
Peckins observed, his head tilting in a way that made Arlo's heart rate spike. I used to work maintenance before I got caught skimming supplies. The lie came easily. He'd rehearsed it enough times. You learn things crawling through the vents.
Maintenance?
Big Louie said dreamily.
That must have been nice, quiet, peaceful.
Everyone looked at him.
What?
The blob defended.
I'm just saying, sometimes I think about what it would be like to have a normal job.
We don't do normal, Vinny said firmly. We're wise guys. We're operators. We're...
Delusional?
Everyone froze. Dreg stood 3 feet away, having approached without anyone noticing. Up close, he was even more terrifying. His scales didn't just look like dried blood, they had the texture of it too. Rough and flaking in places like he was constantly shedding pieces of violence.
Excuse me?
Vinny managed. You're playing pretend, Dreg said, his voice so low it seemed to come from the floor itself. Children playing dress-up, acting out stories you don't understand, about a culture that thinks you're a joke.
Now, wait a minute.
Dreg's hand moved so fast, Arlo barely saw it. One moment, Vinny was talking. The next, Dreg had one of his tentacles wrapped in a claw that could punch through steel. I don't wait, Dreg said simply. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to share whatever pathetic plan you're cooking up. I'm going to use it to get out of here. And if you're very, very lucky, I won't turn you into calamari first. He released Vinny's tentacle, which immediately curled up against the cephalaxian's body. No one moved. No one breathed. 2 nights, Dreg continued. Whatever you're planning happens in 2 nights, or I start removing pieces of your crew until you get motivated. Starting with the blob. I've always wondered if you things pop. He walked away without waiting for an answer. The quiet he left behind was deafening.
We're dead,
Big Louie whispered.
We're so dead.
We're not dead,
Vinny said. But his chromatophores were cycling through panic colors so fast, it looked like a disco having a nervous breakdown.
We just need to move up the timeline.
Move it up?
Peckins squawked.
We don't even have a real plan yet. Then we make one, tonight. All night if we have to.
Vinny looked at each of them in turn, and Arlo saw something shift in the cephalaxian's features. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something else. A grim resolve.
We're not letting that psycho take over our operation. This is our score, our breakout, our moment.
Our funeral,
Big Louie muttered.
Only if we quit, Vinny said. And Vinny the Whacker don't quit. Ever. You got that?
The crew exchanged glances, then slowly nodded. Even Big Louie solidified slightly, taking on a more determined shape.
Good. Now, Gopher, you're going to walk us through every inch of these blueprints. Johnny, you're on the lookout. Peckins, see if you can bribe that Setian guard, the nervous one with the spots. Louis?
Yeah?
Just try to stay positive, okay?
I can do that,
Louis said, though he immediately shifted into a shape that suggested he absolutely could not do that. They worked through the night, and Arlo had to admit, for a bunch of aliens whose entire understanding of crime came from movies older than space travel, they weren't completely incompetent once motivated. Their plan had a weird sort of logic to it, like a complex machine designed by someone who'd only heard descriptions of cause and effect. Arlo spent most of the night subtly steering them away from ideas that would get them killed, and toward the routes on the fake map.
So, we create a distraction here,
Vinny said, pointing at what he thought was a guard station but was actually a janitor's closet.
while Louis squeezes through the vents here.
Why am I always the one squeezing through service conduits?
Big Louis complained.
Because you're literally liquid.
Johnny pointed out.
Literally liquid.
I'm a non-Newtonian fluid, actually. There's a difference.
Whatever you are, you're the only one who fits.
The plan, as Arlo helped them finalize it, involved Peckins starting a fire in the kitchen. Not a real fire, he insisted, just lots of smoke from burning his authentic pasta. Johnny causing a comms malfunction by chittering at a frequency that interfered with certain electronics, a trick he'd only recently learned after noticing the lights flickered whenever he got agitated. Big Louie navigating the conduits to unlock doors from the inside, and Vinny being Vinny. "What's my job again?" Arlo asked.
You're the lookout.
Vinny said.
And the fall guy if things go south.
The fall guy?
Someone has to take the blame if we get caught. Don't worry, you'll only get a few extra months. Years tops.
What about Dreg? The mood immediately darkened.
We tell him the plan,
Vinny said quietly.
Give him his own route, one that keeps him away from us.
And if he doesn't go for it?
Then we pray he's too busy escaping to bother killing us.
The next morning, Tarsus's voice in his ear was approaching frequencies only dogs could hear.
You're actually going to go through with this insanity?
It's accelerated, but yes. Dreg's involvement changes things, but it also raises the stakes in a way that might make the lesson more impactful.
The lesson being what, exactly?
Don't threaten violent criminals? The lesson being that there's a difference between playing a role and living it. They're about to learn that difference. And Dreg? You have the response team ready?
6 guards in full riot gear, positioned at the end of the maintenance shaft labeled Armory. The moment he enters, we lock it down.
Good. And Vinny's crew?
Their route leads to the decommissioned laundry wing. It's a dead end. Every door is sealed. It'll be embarrassing, but not dangerous.
Perfect. This is going to work, Tarsus.
Your optimism would be admirable if it wasn't so consistently misguided.
That's why you love me.
My species doesn't experience love the way humans do.
Fine. That's why you tolerate me with less hostility than you show others.
Accurate.
That afternoon, Vinny approached Dreg with all the confidence of someone walking into a reactor core with a match.
We're going tomorrow night,
he said without preamble.
Midnight. You want in? You follow this route.
He handed over a hand-drawn map, copied from the blueprints but modified.
It leads to the armory. Should be exactly what someone like you is looking for.
Dreg studied the map, then Vinny, then the map again.
This looks too simple.
It ain't a trick. We want you gone just as much as you want to be gone. No offense.
Dreg looked from Vinny to his crew, his eyes settling on the smallest, most fragile-looking one.
The bird comes with me. Insurance, to make sure the route is clear.
Peckins made a small, terrified squeaking sound. Vinny hesitated, looking at his friend. Then he straightened.
Fine, but you lay one claw on him and the deal's off.
Dreg smiled, a chilling sight.
The deal will be whatever I say it is. I'd kill you all anyway, but this saves time.
He walked away with the map, leaving Vinny standing there.
He's taking me?
Peckins whispered.
As insurance?
I'll get you out, Peck,
Big Louie said, his form firming up.
We'll get you out.
I think I respect him a little.
Johnny said.
Just a little. Is that wrong?
Yes, everyone said in unison. The day of the breakout, the strain in B Block was thick enough to swim through. Every species had their own way of showing stress. The Glyptons were venting methane at an alarming rate. The fungal thing in cell 12 had sprouted anxiety spores, and Johnny was chittering so fast he sounded like a broken radio. Arlo played his part, looking appropriately nervous whenever anyone glanced his way. Inside, though, he ran through contingencies. Dreg, taking a hostage, changed things.
You look worried, Gopher,
Vinny said, settling next to him at dinner.
Having second thoughts?
No, just, what if we get caught?
Then we do our time and try again later. That's life, kid. You fail, you fall, you get back up. Like that human said in that movie. Get busy living or get busy dying.
I don't think that means what you think it means.
Sure it does. It means you gotta take chances. You gotta grab life by the...
He waved a tentacle vaguely.
Whatever life has that you can grab.
Despite everything, Arlo found himself oddly touched. It was wrong, misguided, and based on a fundamental misunderstanding of both crime and cinema, but there was something genuine in Vinny's conviction. Thanks, Vinny.
Don't thank me yet, kid. Thank me when we're on the outside with credits to burn.
Where would you even go? Vinny's colors shifted to something almost wistful.
There's this water world, Aquarius 7. My species originated there, way back. Never been, but I heard it's beautiful. No guards, no walls, just endless ocean and the freedom to swim wherever you want.
Sounds nice.
What about you? Where's a human go when he's got his freedom?
Arlo thought about it. Where would Jimmy the Gopher go? Somewhere quiet, maybe a farm colony. Somewhere I could work with my hands, build something instead of stealing it.
That's the saddest dream I ever heard.
Maybe, but it's mine. Midnight approached like a predator, slow, inevitable, and bringing with it all the promise of violence or revelation. The lights in B Block dimmed to their nighttime settings, casting low shadows that seemed to reach for things they couldn't quite grasp. Arlo was in a position near the entrance to Maintenance Tunnel 7, playing lookout while feeding info to Tarsus.
Dreg's moving, she reported in his ear. He has Peckins. Team is ready to secure the hostage first.
And the others?
Peckins' distraction is working. The amount of smoke he generated before he left is impressive. Looks like he burned a whole batch of that pasta.
From somewhere in the distance, minor alarms began to blare. Big Louie oozed past, giving what might have been a thumbs up if he had thumbs, or bones, or any solid structure at all. He disappeared into a service conduit.
Conduits are clear,
Johnny reported, his chittering now tuned to that disruptive frequency that made the comms buzz.
Comms are glitching. Then let's do this thing,
Vinny said, his fedora tilted at what he probably thought was a rakish angle.
Let's show this place what real criminals can do.
They moved through the corridors, heading for the decommissioned laundry wing.
Oh, this is actually happening,
Big Louie whispered, oozing from a vent overhead.
We're actually doing this.
Of course we are,
Vinny replied.
We're professionals.
They reached the checkpoint on the map, what Vinny believed was a deactivated security door, but was actually the main entrance to the abandoned wing.
Louie, you're up,
Vinny commanded. Big Louie squeezed through a grate, disappeared for about 30 seconds, then squeezed back out.
It's unlocked,
he reported, sounding surprised.
See? Perfect.
Vinny pushed the door open, leading them into a vast, dark room that smelled of rust and old soap. In the maintenance shaft, the one labeled Armory, Dreg shoved Peckins forward.
The door,
he growled.
I don't know how to open it,
Peckins stammered.
Then you're useless.
Dreg raised a claw hand.
Dreg, stand down.
Tarsus' voice boomed from hidden speakers. Floodlights snapped on, revealing 6 guards in full riot gear aiming non-lethal pulse rifles from catwalks above. The door behind Dreg slammed shut with a deafening clang.
He's trapped,
Tarsus reported in Arlo's ear.
Hostage is clear. Dreg is not happy.
He's punching the blast door.
Another voice on the comm reported, amazed.
He's actually denting it.
Sedate him,
Tarsus ordered. Back in the laundry wing, the main door slammed shut behind Vinny's crew, and the lights came on. They stood in the middle of a huge, empty room. All other exits had been welded shut years ago. They were trapped. Officer Tarsus and 2 other guards stepped out from behind a row of rusted-out industrial dryers. For a moment, nobody moved.
Gentlemen,
Tarsus said, her voice so flat it could have been used to calibrate instruments.
out for an evening stroll?
We was just...
Vinny started, then deflated. His fedora slipped off and landed with a sad little plop.
Who am I kidding? You got us, Copper.
Copper? One of the other guards, a young Setian, whispered.
Did he just call you Copper?
It's from his movies,
Tarsus explained.
Arrest them gently,
she added, as Big Louie began to literally puddle from fear. Wait, Arlo said, stepping forward. It's my fault. I gave them the blueprints. I planned the whole thing. Everyone looked at him.
Gopher,
Vinny said, his voice soft.
What are you doing?
The right thing, for once. Arlo met Tarsus's eyes. I'm the mastermind. They were just following my lead.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard,
Johnny said.
The dumbest, and I've heard Peckins sing. He's lying,
Vinny said firmly.
This was my idea, my plan, my responsibility.
It was such a genuine moment of attempted nobility that Arlo almost broke character right there.
Actually,
Tarsus said, her subharmonics suggesting amusement,
I think we need to have a conversation, all of us, in the Warden's office.
The Warden? Big Louie reformed slightly. We're going to see the Warden?
Oh, yes. I think he'll be very interested in meeting you all.
The walk to the Warden's office felt like a funeral procession. Arlo stayed at the back, playing his part. Tarsus updated him quietly on Dreg.
Sedative darts had no effect. He pulled out and ate it, said it tasted like his second clutchmate. We had to use the gas.
They reached the Warden's office, a space none of them had ever seen. It was deliberately austere. A desk, 2 chairs, and a window overlooking the asteroid's barren surface. The only decoration was a small succulent that had somehow survived despite Arlo's complete inability to care for plants.
Sit,
Tarsus commanded. They sat, or in Big Louie's case, pooled.
The Warden will be here momentarily,
she said, then stepped back against the wall. The door opened. Arlo walked in, no longer slouching, no longer playing Jimmy the Gopher. He moved with the measured confidence of someone who belonged exactly where he was. He sat behind the desk, folded his hands, and looked at each of them in turn. Gentlemen, he said, my name is Warden Arlo Cassian, and we need to talk. The quiet in the room was absolute, a crushing weight. Vinny's skin went through every color in the visible spectrum, and a few that weren't. Big Louie solidified into a perfect sphere. Johnny's chittering stopped mid-chitter. Peckins, who had just been escorted in, looking ruffled but unharmed, fainted.
You,
Vinny finally managed.
You're...
The Warden, yes. I've only been undercover in B Block for the last 5 days.
But you're Jimmy the Gopher.
No, Jimmy the Gopher doesn't exist. I created him to get close to you, to understand why this facility's rehabilitation programs were failing.
So, everything? The blueprints? The plan?
Vinny's tentacles began to writhe, not with satisfaction, but with rage.
You used us! You made fools of us!
I ran a controlled exercise to teach you the difference between fantasy and reality, Arlo corrected calmly, though I'll admit Dreg's arrival wasn't part of the original plan.
You lied to us! You pretended to be our friend!
I pretended to be a criminal, Arlo said, his voice softening. The part where I started to like you idiots, that wasn't pretend.
Ha! How can we believe anything you say?
Arlo leaned back in his chair. Because I'm about to tell you the truth. This facility is on the verge of being shut down. 94% recidivism rate. You get out, you come back, over and over. I wanted to know why.
So, you played dress-up and made us your science experiment?
Vinny shot back. I tried to understand you, and I do. You're not criminals. Not really. You're actors who've only been given one script. You've built an entire identity around movies that are 300 years out of date because that's all you had.
Those movies are classics.
Those movies are a fantasy, which is why I'm not sending you to Supermax. Another silence, this one tinged with confusion.
You're not?
Peckins asked, having somehow regained consciousness. No, because you didn't actually commit a crime. You failed an educational exercise. As for Dreg, he's being transferred to an actual maximum security facility within the hour. A clerical error brought him here. My response team has fixed that error.
Response team,
Johnny muttered.
A response team, the whole time.
The whole time, Arlo confirmed. You were never in real danger. Vinny's fedora was on the floor. He picked it up, looked at it, then set it on the desk.
So, what now? We go back to our cells, pretend this never happened?
No. Now, I offer you a job.
A job?
Big Louie formed what might have been eyebrows.
What kind of job?
Peer counselors. Official positions with training and a small stipend. Funded by relocating the budget from the failed behavioral modification through repetitive crime therapy program. You help new inmates adjust. You show them there's more to life than the identity they've built around their crimes. You become the rehabilitation program this place needs.
You want us to be snitches?
Vinny sounded appalled. I want you to be leaders. Real leaders, not movie characters. You said it yourself, Vinny. This is your block, your community. I'm offering you the chance to make it better. Vinny looked at his crew, then back at Arlo. His colors a swirling mess of anger and confusion.
No, I don't think so. We're criminals, remember? You just proved it. We're not counselors.
You're not. Not yet, Arlo said. Look, I know what I did was a betrayal. It was unethical, and it was a last resort. But I saw potential in you that you couldn't see in yourselves. I saw a leader, an organizer, a caregiver, and a planner. If you walk away now, you go back to your cells, serve your time, and probably end up back here within 6 months. Part of that 94%. Is that the story you want for yourselves? A statistic? Vinny stared at him, then at his crew. Some sort of silent communication passed between them.
We need to talk about it,
Vinny said finally.
Private-like.
Take all the time you need. Officer Tarsus will escort you to the conference room. As they filed out, Vinny paused at the door.
That stuff you said about wanting a quiet place, was any of that real?
Arlo considered the question. Sometimes I think about what I'd do if I wasn't trying to fix broken systems. And yeah, a farm colony sounds nice. Somewhere simple.
That's still the saddest dream I ever heard.
Maybe, but it's mine. Vinny nodded, then followed the others out. An hour later, they were back. Peckins had molted so much he looked like a plucked chicken. Big Louie had achieved a consistency somewhere between pudding and resolve. Johnny was chittering in what Arlo had learned was his thoughtful frequency. And Vinny had his fedora back on, tilted at a new angle, less rakish, more purposeful.
We got conditions,
Vinny announced. I'm listening.
First, we get real training. None of this learn-as-you-go crud. We want to know what we're doing.
Agreed.
Second, we keep movie night, but we get new movies. Real ones. Documentaries, even.
Little expensive to secure stuff from old Earth archives, but I can figure something out.
Third, Peckins gets to keep cooking, but he takes an actual class first.
There's a culinary program on Station 6. I can arrange a video course.
Fourth,
Big Louie spoke up, surprising everyone.
we want access to educational programs, real ones. I want to learn. I don't know, something, anything that isn't about crime.
The Commonality has thousands of educational programs. Pick whatever interests you.
And fifth,
Vinny said, his chromatophores shifting to something Arlo had never seen before. A flicker of authentic aspiration, maybe?
when we get out, if we do this right, you write us real recommendations. Not just they served their time, but real ones. The kind that might get us actual jobs.
If you do this right, Arlo said, standing and extending his hand, I'll help you find those jobs myself. Vinny looked at the extended hand like it might bite him. Then slowly, he wrapped a tentacle around it.
You're either the best warden we ever had,
He said,
or the craziest.
Porque no los dos?
What?
It's from an old commercial. Ask for it in your new movie collection.
You're definitely the craziest.
3 months later, B Block looked different. Not physically. The walls were still the same institutional gray. The light still hummed with that particular frequency that suggested the manufacturer had gotten a bulk discount, and the roosters still announced a dawn that didn't exist. But the energy had changed.
All right, settle down.
Vinny said to a group of new arrivals, his fedora now accompanied by an official peer counselor badge that he wore with more pride than he'd ever shown for his imaginary criminal empire.
I know you're all scared, confused, maybe a little angry. That's normal. That's expected. But here, what you need to know about B Block.
Arlo watched from the observation deck, Tarsus beside him.
Recidivism is down to 60%,
she reported.
That's a 34% improvement in 1 quarter. It's unprecedented.
Still not good enough.
It's better than any facility in the sector.
Better than awful is still not good.
Your humility is showing.
They watched as Big Louie, who had discovered a passion for molecular chemistry that surprised everyone, including himself, demonstrated to another group how to use the educational terminals. He'd solidified more in the last 3 months than in the previous 3 years, taking on an almost professional bearing.
Administrator Shen approved the program expansion.
Tarsus continued.
3 more facilities want to implement your model.
It's not my model, it's theirs. I just gave them permission to be more than their worst moments.
That might be the most human thing you've ever said.
I'll take that as a compliment. Johnny chittered by, leading a work detail. He'd discovered he had a talent for organization and scheduling, his repetitive speech pattern actually helping him remember complex sequences.
Work detail to kitchen, he announced. Kitchen duty, 1,600 hours, 1,600 sharp.
He's good at that, Tarsus observed. He's good at a lot of things. They all are. They just needed someone to see it. Peckins emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of something that actually looked edible. His cooking class had revealed that his species' foot-based taste sensors made them exceptional at detecting subtle flavors. Once he learned to translate that into human-compatible cuisine.
Try this,
he called up to them.
It's a fusion dish. Cephalaxian ink pasta with Terran herbs.
Maybe later, Arlo called back, his stomach still recovering from the last fusion experiment.
Your loss.
A new alarm sounded. Not the emergency type, just the shift change. Inmates moved to their various assignments, some to education, some to work details, some to counseling sessions. It looked almost like a functioning community.
You did good,
Tarsus said quietly. We did good. I couldn't have pulled it off without you.
No, she agreed. You couldn't have. Your next idea would have probably gotten you killed.
My next idea is actually pretty solid.
Oh, no.
We're expanding the program. Minimum security is just the start. I want to try it with medium security next.
Absolutely not.
I've already submitted the proposal to Shen.
I'm requesting a transfer.
No, you're not.
No,
she sighed, her subharmonics suggesting exhausted acceptance.
I'm not.
Down in the common area, Vinny was wrapping up his session with the new arrivals.
Look,
He said, his tentacles spreading in an inclusive gesture.
I ain't gonna lie to you. This place is what you make it. You want to play tough guy? You'll find tough guys to play with, and you'll all end up back here in 6 months. You want to actually learn something, maybe become something more than just another statistic? Well, that's an option too.
What about you? One of the new inmates asked, a young Setian who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else.
What did you choose?
Vinny's colors shifted through a complex pattern. Pride, embarrassment, resolve.
I chose to stop pretending to be something I saw in a movie and start being something real. Best, worst decision I ever made.
Worst decision?
Well, yeah. The best decision would have been not getting arrested in the first place. But since that ship already sailed, this is the next best thing.
The group laughed, tension breaking. Vinny continued talking, sharing his story, building connection. Being a leader instead of just playing one.
3 weeks until the official commonality inspection, Tarsus noted.
Think they'll approve the program?
After seeing these numbers, they'd be idiots not to.
They're bureaucrats.
Point taken, but even bureaucrats can recognize success when it's this obvious.
Arlo's comm unit buzzed, a message from Administrator Shen. Warden Cassian, in light of your unprecedented success, we're fast-tracking your proposal for medium security implementation. Expect a new arrival next week. Category 4 offender. Consider it a test case.
Category 4?
Tarsus read over his shoulder.
That's armed robbery level.
We can handle it.
You mean you're going undercover again?
Well,
I'm doubling my medication, she muttered. The stress you cause is affecting my harmonic resonance.
You care.
It's sweet. I'm documenting everything, so when you get yourself killed, I can at least say I tried to stop you.
They stood in comfortable silence, watching the dynamic chaos of a prison that was slowly, impossibly, becoming something more.
Hey, Warden,
Vinny called up.
Movie night's in an hour. We're watching The Shawshank Redemption. Figured we could critique it for accuracy.
That should be interesting, Arlo called back.
You coming?
Arlo looked at Tarsus, who gave him a look that suggested she'd rather perform dental surgery on herself. Wouldn't miss it, he said. As they headed down to join the others, Tarsus asked,
Do you think it'll last?
I don't know, but I know it's real. They're not playing roles anymore. They're building identities, and that's the first step.
Toward what?
Toward proving that redemption isn't just a word in ancient movies. It's something anyone can achieve, even a bunch of aliens who thought they were wise guys.
That was almost poetic.
Must be all the movie nights. I'm starting to think in dramatic monologues.
We're all doomed.
They entered the common room to find it transformed into a makeshift theater. Someone had hung a sheet on the wall for a screen, and rows of mismatched chairs faced it. Inmates from across the block had gathered, not segregated by species or crime, but mixed together like an actual community. Vinny had saved them seats in the front row, his fedora placed carefully on one chair, a gesture of respect that meant more than he probably realized.
Before we start,
Vinny announced, standing in front of the screen,
I just want to say something. 3 months ago, I thought I knew who I was. I was Vinny DeWacker Galorsk, the toughest wise guy in B-Block. Turns out, I was just a scared squid with a hat and some movies I didn't understand.
A few chuckles from the audience.
But then, this guy,
he pointed at Arlo,
showed me something different. He showed me that being tough ain't about pretending to be something you saw on a screen. It's about facing who you really are and deciding to be better. So yeah, we're watching a prison movie tonight, but tomorrow we're writing our own stories, and they're gonna be better than anything Hollywood ever dreamed up.
The room erupted in applause. Chittering, thrumming, squelching, and even some recognizably human clapping. As the lights dimmed and the movie started, Arlo felt a sensation he hadn't experienced in years of correction work, a profound optimism.
You're smiling, Tarsus observed. It's disturbing.
I'm appreciating the moment. The moment where a room full of criminals is about to watch a movie about escaping from prison? The moment where they're choosing to be more than just criminals. On screen, a character's voice began narrating, talking about how a positive outlook could be a dangerous thing. In B Block, surrounded by aliens who'd learned to be human from the wrong movies for the wrong reasons, Arlo disagreed. A positive outlook wasn't dangerous. Despair was. And for the first time in B Block's history, despair was losing.